Welcome back, everyone. Today we dive into an epic tale of interstellar diplomacy and desperate pleas for help. Imagine a scenario where an alien race, on the brink of annihilation, turns to their only hope, the formidable human empire. This is a story of strategic alliances, hidden military might, and the tough choices that come with wielding such power. Stay tuned as we unravel the intense negotiations and reveal whether humanity steps up to save their galactic allies. In a desperate attempt, an alien ally requests human favor. Will humanity's intervention turn the tide against a relentless enemy, or will the galaxy plunge into deeper conflict? Let's find out. Representative Zyla, to what do I owe the pleasure? The human delegate to the Forian peoples stood politely from behind his desk and motioned her into a chair opposite him. Thank you for meeting me on such short notice, Delegate River. I'm afraid I have come with ill tidings and to request assistance of the human empire. River smiled softly, his features gentle, but in his eyes were calculations, predictions, expectations. The Empire and the Forian people have always been staunch allies. What can we do for you? Zyla produced her tablet, conjuring on it a series of reports from Forian expeditionary forces that had recently made contact with a new interstellar race. Though protocols were followed and the Forians had attempted peaceful communication, they had been rebuffed by the Legion, a race of fungal sentients of seemingly unending number. The Legion had all but decimated the first contact party and had ravaged the rescue fleet that had jumped in to save the expedition forces from what they had assumed was some form of natural disaster or disease. They had been met with harsh fighting in orbit, as biological ships released clouds of mines like spores that detonated across the hulls of the rescue vehicles. Even after the rescue force realized this was a conscious attack and had begun evasive maneuvers and return fire, their attempts were found meaningless against the Legion vessels. Outnumbered, outgunned, and unprepared, the Forian rescue fleet fled back to Forian space. The expeditionary force was assumed totally lost, and the retreat carved a galactic trail for the Legion to follow. The human read through the reports with a stoic expression. They highlighted the negative trend the war was on, as Forian planet after Forian planet fell to Legion ships and soldiers, ultimately to be consumed by their growth. The Legion had seen only success in the conflict, and had carved the Forian community into two halves, each half holding on by threads. Your people are divided and engaged in a losing war with the Legion, he summarized. I'm certain we can be of assistance. Humanity has encountered these foes before. I will have our commanders generate reports of their findings, suggestions of favorable battle tactics, recommendations on how to proceed, and of course, you will have our assistance in rebuilding. Your offer is much appreciated, Delegate River, but I'm afraid the Forian people need more. One of the tufts of hair above the human's eyes raised slightly. An expression Zyla had learned meant the human was either confused, intrigued, or entertained, or all three. Humans were rather complex social creatures. If you have a proposal, I can bring it forward to the Baron here. If it is within our power, we could grant it immediately. Of course. He set the tablet down and turned fully towards Zyla, his countenance more serious than polite now. If you are requesting something more serious, something substantial, it will need to be approved by the Emperor and his advisors. I can only promise so much. Zyla was familiar with the human empires negotiating. Generally, they would hear a proposal, and if they found it favorable, they would respond within 2 human days. If they found it politely unfavorable, they would simply not respond, answering inquiries with, "The advisors are still discussing it," or, "A decision has not yet been made on the matter, sorry." And wholly unfavorable proposals, such as the joint research agreement Zyla had proposed not 3 human years ago, were immediately shut down. Her proposal now was one she expected wholesale rejection on, but she had been armed by the Forian Primarch with a new bargaining tool and an imperative to make the humans agree. The Forians could not take no for answer on this. We believe the humans would be potent allies in this fight. Our military intelligence once generated a report on human forces that implied that what we could see of human military and weaponry was a placating show, and that more effort had been spent to conceal human military might than any galactic nation had ever spent using military might. The human said nothing. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk, his fingers into a steeple, and his mouth behind his hands. His head tilted down, and he now looked up with his eyes towards Xyla. The look was serious, dangerous, predatory even. But he did not say anything. The Forians formally request human aid in defeating the Legion forces and reuniting Forian space. We cannot fulfill that request at this time, he said flatly. We know humans can fight, Xyla demanded. Her skin began to glow from bioluminescence, betraying the passion of her position from the calmness of her speech. Are you not capable of defeating the Legion? Are you afraid of them? That is not the issue, Representative Xyla, the human began. Tell me honestly now, could human warships defeat the Legion in combat? The human glanced down at Xyla's tablet before bringing his gaze back to hers. Off the record, he said. Xyla shut off her tablet and stowed it in her pocket as the human walked quietly around the desk and poked his head out the door. He glanced side to side for a moment and then, seemingly satisfied, closed and locked the door. He returned to his desk, opened the drawer and withdrew a tablet of his own, which he powered off and set face down on the desk. Finally, he regarded her intently. Your military intelligence is correct. Humans have concealed their military prowess from other galactic nations. Could you beat the Legion? Yes. Of all the spacefaring races we've come across, the Legion are perhaps the second or third most formidable, not counting ourselves, of course. We wouldn't handily defeat them per se, but we could all but guarantee military success against the forces you are engaging. Second or third, Xyla stammered. Well, naturally the Federation is first. Then there's the Gaussians, with their rather crafty electronic warfare. Their combat effectiveness is rather remarkable, actually, and the rest of the galactic community simply hasn't realized the potential Gaussians have for warfare, due to their friendly nature. And they have more ships than we do, people. Even still, they don't have a whole lot of bona fide military resources. Once they're done with their one trick of electronic warfare, they are beatable with simple weaponry and tactics. Then the Legion, with their large number and very fast resupply times, plus the fact that one Legionnaire could eventually reproduce into a whole horde of fighters by itself, means that any conflicts with them, not resolved very quickly and incredibly, judiciously, could very quickly become a quagmire. The Empire certainly cannot afford a second war that could turn into a stalemate without our full attention. This is why I must deny your request. As for the second or third place race, it's hard to say yet. The Wagash people, I don't believe your kind has encountered them yet actually, so I ask you to keep this between us, is rather warlike. We don't know the full strength of their forces yet, and they are new to the galactic scene, having only just achieved FTL a few cycles ago. But they remind us of us, and that means they're not to be trifled with lightly. Xyla was shocked into silence for a moment. The human had acknowledged the threat of the Legion, but had framed it as one of time and effort, not insurmountable forces or indestructible vessels. And they weren't even as much of a threat as some new race that hadn't even made it to the galactic community yet. I see you are processing still, so let me reiterate our previous offer. We can have the Empire's top military analysts review your positions and provide you with advice on how to proceed and findings from our own initial skirmish with the Legion. That information should greatly improve Forian combat effectiveness, and it really is a very generous offer. What of human warships, simply on loan? No. Hired human mercenaries? I'm afraid not. Human weapons, training, even just a blueprint? Out of the question, the human said flatly. What I've offered is already a stretch, and Xyla cut him off. The Primarch calls in his favor. What? Xyla stood now, reaching her full height and allowing her bioluminescence to fill the room with different shades of blue and purple. She put on her most commanding voice. The Primarch calls in his favor. You don't know what you're asking, the human said in a warning tone. This is Pandora's box, and you don't just want the key, you want a sledgehammer to break it open. I have read your human mythology, River, and I know of Pandora's box. Do you know what was inside? Monsters of every kind imaginable. Hope, Zyla said resolutely. Delegate River, these reports do not tell the full story. Our forces are fractured beyond repair. Our colonies are starving, our ships and stations destroyed and left derelict. Even our homeworld is on the brink, fighting an unending battle just to supply forces and equipment enough to slow the Legion advance. Not stop it, not turn it, slow it. Without human military intervention, the Forian race is finished. We are a proud people, Mr. River, but not too proud to beg. Please help us. River was silent for a moment, staring into the room beyond Zyla. His calculating eyes had glasses over, as if seeing something horrible from his past before him now. The human emperor, he eventually said seemingly to himself, was once rescued from drowning during a visit to that aquatic colony of yours by the Forian prince. He vowed to repay the debt when your people asked. You of course know this, since you're calling in that favor. He looked at her now. But you don't really know the magnitude of what you're asking. Humans going to war with anyone is going to change everything, on a galactic scale. Zyla scoffed, but the human's serious expression quieted her quickly. Your people like to race, yes? River asked. Yes, Zyla responded. It is our, as you humans practice it, sport. Your fastest racer, how quick are they? Resben is our fastest racer. He could circumnavigate our home planet in less than 3 of its days. How long would it take you to do? River asked. Well, I'm no racer. Zyla blushed shyly. Maybe 20, 15 if I'm given time to get in shape. River sighed and then looked at her deeply. You are to your race what Resben is to mine, at least in terms of military. I said that the Legion was perhaps the 2nd or 3rd strongest military power in our galaxy. Well, the difference between first place, the Federation, and second place is like the difference between Resbian and you. It's astronomical. It's leaps and bounds. It's degrees of magnitude different. The only things that prevent us from wiping out the Legion are that we'd have to be decisive and thorough, and that we're too busy with the Federation to be thorough. You're asking an adult to get into a fight with a child. Only once everyone else sees the adult fight, they'll realize they're all children. It's going to start an arms race with every other species in the galaxy. We have no other choice, Zyla said. We need your military to save us from annihilation. River sighed for a moment and rubbed his hand across his brow. He muttered under his breath for a moment, something about diplomatic relations in light of military prowess. Eventually he stood. I must attend to something first. Will you stay here a moment while I make some negotiations? Zyla nodded, and River left the room quietly. He was back in only a few minutes and nodded to her. You'll have our support, but just how much support we can offer depends on this next bit. He tapped on his tablet a few decisive keystrokes, and a telemonitor descended from the ceiling behind her. It whirred quietly for a moment before an image of another human appeared on it. In contrast to River's white, stiff attire with blue trim, this human wore black with a white undershirt and no accenting colors. His feet were kicked up on his desk as he leaned back in his chair and grinned at the screen. River, he called jovially, finally calling to surrender, eh? Well, you can suck my... River cut him off with quickly and loudly. I'm joined by a representative of the Forian people, Miss Zyla. Zyla nodded a polite greeting, and the human on the monitor stammered for a moment before adopting a polite, formal posture. Apologies, Miss Zyla. How can the Federation of Human Territories be of assistance? The Forians have called in their favor, River answered for her. I'm calling to negotiate a ceasefire while we answer it. The Federation is friendly to the Forian people, but we are under no such obligations, River. I respect you for responding to a favor, but your ceasefire is denied. River put out his palms in a placating gesture. Hear me out first. The favor is military aid. The reason, he swiped at his tablet and the human on the monitor looked down at his own as he received the message, is of mutual interest to us. The human on the screen was quiet for a moment as he read. His face changed from one of surprise and curiosity over the call to one of bitterness and anger. Finally, he looked up at Zyla through the monitor. The Legion harvested one of our colonies when we first encountered them. An undefended civilian colony was all but devoured. And when we finally made diplomatic contact with them, they said it wasn't their fault, they just eat dead stuff. It was the colony's fault for being dead so easily. I thought we destroyed those spory bastards, but I guess we just accidentally sent them your way. River, you have your ceasefire, and Zyla, you just got more ships. Tell your Primarch to point them out and get out the way, the humans are coming. The transmission went dark, and River turned toward Zyla. Well, he clapped his hands and rubbed them enthusiastically. With Imperial and Federation forces, we should have that taken care in a couple days. It's like you got 2 Resbans for the price of 1. And what you said about Pandora's box? About the arms race? Oh, I meant it. You're going to see monsters, and all the galactic stage will feel like children before the human militaries. But you'll get your hope too. And besides, he winked, a favor is owed. And there you have it, the dramatic plea of Representative Zyla, and the incredible response from the human empire. This tale reminds us that in the vastness of space, alliances can make or break entire civilizations. The human empire's hidden strength, now revealed, stands as a beacon of hope for their Forian allies, but it also warns of the immense power humanity holds. What did you think of this galactic saga? Could humanity's involvement change the balance of power in the galaxy? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more interstellar adventures and gripping tales from across the galaxy.